2020 and 2021 financial year, and consideration of minutes, Chair. If we can be in a position to conclude the process, we can do that, Chair, in terms of the report, but that will be the decision the committee will take.
Recording in progress.
We have to date only received inputs from the African National Congress on concluding remarks for consideration, Chair, and we have forwarded that to all members, Chair. So that, and we also have, I noted 2 apologies, Chair. Mr. Thring, who still have a medical apology, and Mr. McPherson also submitted an apology. He's just busy on party business, Chair, and he submitted his apology earlier this morning. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Honourable members, I'm sure we can proceed as proposed. If I can present before you the agenda. Portfolio committee members. If you're comfortable, can we proceed?
Okay, we need a move and Mrs. Hermans, Chair.
Honourable Hermans.
Thank you very much, Chair. I move for the adoption of the agenda as tabled. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Hermans.
Mbuyane, Chair.
Honourable Mbuyane.
Chairperson, thank you very much. I support the proposal for the move of the agenda. Thank you very much.
If I can just check if ever there are any objections. And in the absence, I would then actually request the Secretariat to be able to actually pick up the next item. It is actually as presented. Secretariat, maybe taking us through the process on this particular item.
Chair.
Secretariat, yes.
Chair, Mrs. Sheldon will take us through the report. She will share the report and take the committee through the report. Remember, this report was tabled, I think, in September before the parliamentary program changed. So it's a completion of that process that started in September already. So members may not remember the content. So Margaret will just briefly take members through the report and also submit the concluding remarks by the African National Congress in this regard, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. May we proceed in that order?
Mr. Hermans, can you give me sharing rights again, please? Good morning, members. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, I can see the screen.
Okay. So this is the fourth quarter report. The report starts with an introduction, bearing in mind the impact of COVID, as well as the introduction of the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan. Gives a brief overview of what the mandate of the committee is in relation to quarterly progress reports. The purpose of the report is provided, as well as the method which the committee followed, and then an outline of the contents of the report. So the focus is on the DTIC. We outline what the strategic goals were for the 2020-21 financial year. This is then followed by an overview and assessment of the period, which would be the full financial year, unaudited. Then there's the non-financial performance. So each program's targets and achievements were outlined. So program 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that's for all 10. This is then followed by financial performance for the 2020-21 financial year. However, that was unaudited information. So broken down with the program expenditure, and then followed by the economic classification. We then worked through the issues raised during the deliberations. This included risks to the global economic outlook, the impact of corruption on economic growth, the rise in unemployment, the decline in domestic investment and concerns around that, the importance of vaccination, the local public procurement and allocations for youth-owned businesses, incentive programs, and then the conclusions, which we're now going to consider. I'm going to switch to the ANC submission, if that's okay.
It should be in order.
Okay. This is the ANC submission. Based on its deliberations, the committee drew the following conclusions. The committee noted that despite the improved global economic outlook, risks remain which may potentially compromise South Africa's economic recovery. These risks relate to the development and spread of new variants as a result of the delay in vaccine procurement and distribution. Chair, shall we go one by one and get inputs?
You asking a question?
Yes, I just want to check. Do you want me to stop at each one and then get inputs, or go through all of them first?
It will be easier just to go through all of them first, and then we can actually then come back to actually get inputs and conclude, get inputs, but take us through maybe the whole list first.
Okay.
And then we actually can come back and pick up each one to conclude.
Okay, Chair, we'll do so. The committee recognized the negative socioeconomic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, especially with regard to the rising unemployment levels, especially among the youth. The committee welcomes the DTIC support provided to the Youth Employment Scheme, as well as support given to youth-owned or managed businesses. Then thirdly, corruption and state capture remains of concern to the committee, as the failure to address corruption in all its forms may further compromise economic growth. Number 4, the committee noted that despite significant public investment, private investment lagged behind, which had been worsened by the second wave of COVID-19 infections for the period under review. The committee, number 5, the committee is of the view that these factors could slow down the domestic economic recovery and may lead to further fiscal tightening. Point number 6, to mitigate the socioeconomic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, the committee encouraged the DTIC to persist in its implementation of the interventions as mandated by the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, and to consider creative ways to reach and include businesses in more rural provinces. Point number 7, the committee noted with concern the decline in domestic investment during the fourth quarter, despite significant increases in investments by public corporations and government. It, however, welcomed the investment by companies such as Bader SA Pty Limited, Sizabantu Piping Systems Pty Limited, and firms within the poultry industry. And then the final point, the committee welcomed the collaborative social compact between government, business and organized labor in the various master plans spearheaded by the DTIC to support economic recovery as part of the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, and further mitigate against the decline in economic growth due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
And then I'm sure we can actually then go back so that we can just take comments, questions, if ever there are clarity questions or correction or additions. You can pick up from the first point and actually allow the members to actually give guidance and direction on those issues. Let's do that then, Margaret.
Andre, can you take the
Chair?
lead on that
Yeah.
process?
Chair, we need now any input from members on the from other parties on the submission by the ANC, if they wish to comment, if they wish to raise any concern or any matter they may have, or they may be in support of the submission by the ANC. So it's important that we hear other views on the matter, Chair.
I'm sure we can start with the first one, Secretariat. Take us through that.
If we can move the first one, the committee noted that despite the improved global outlook, if any member has any objection to that proposed concluding remark. If not, Chair, then we can move forward to the second one, Chair.
Let me check on honorable members if there's any addition, amendment. In the absence of any addition, amendment, or removal, then we can actually then proceed and accept the first point. Then we can move to the second point. Secretariat.
The second point recognize the negative socioeconomic impact of COVID-19 pandemic and welcome the DTE's IC support to the youth employment scheme, as well as support given to youth-owned or managed businesses.
Okay, let's actually hear from honorable members. Are there any additions, correction, or suggestion of being able to remove? Are there any comments on second item? In the absence, one will request that we consider the third item.
Chair, Mr. Mbuyani raised his hand, Chair.
Okay, Honorable Mbuyani.
Yeah, Chairperson, thanks, man. I don't know if we're talking of the corruption state and the concern of the committee, failure to address the corruption. It compromises economic growth. But mine was just to check if there's any experience in terms of the electricity. What if any of the doing department in terms of the youth initiative project of like solar, in terms of funding them so that they are able to form part of the process moving forward? Because we understand that the compromise of the economic growth, the electricity as well is part. Then if we talk of whether youth development programs that can be able to assist young people to form part of the value chain in terms of growth. Thanks.
And there is a suggestion of an addition from Honorable Mbuyani. I'm not sure if ever there are further comments from members. And Honorable Mbuyani, if ever you can give an indication what addition and of what specific issue to that item, so that at least we can make an addition or amendment to include the point you're raising. Let me actually open up for the meeting.
Chair, if I may come in, Chair, and then
yes.
I can't recall that the body of the report reflect anything, but Ms. Madalani or Ms. Sheldon can confirm that we make any reference to electricity in this report. I think yesterday the matter was raised, and that issue will most likely form part of the report going forward, Chair. But the body of the current report before us, I can't recall it reflects any discussion on electricity supply as a challenge to economic growth. I know we discussed it yesterday as part of the annual report, and that may definitely will be reflected in that report, Chair. But my colleagues can confirm if I'm correct on that matter, Chair.
Okay, let's actually get colleagues to confirm that it is covered or not on the reference made by Hermans. Let's actually get the colleagues
Chair, Ms. Madalani raised her hand, Chair.
Okay, Honorable Madalani.
Thank you, Chairperson. Andre, you are correct. It will definitely reflect in the BRRR because it was discussed yesterday during the engagement with the Minister and the department. Thank you.
Chair?
Yes.
I just want to write, there is a sentence here in 3.2 of the current report. I'm highlighting it.
Okay.
It's in relation to the impact of corruption on economic growth, which may be what Mr. Mbuyane was referring to.
Honorable Mbuyane, if you have a look at that, maybe you can actually get Sheldon just to take us through it, and then we can see if ever it accommodates and or cover the point raised by Honorable Mbuyane. Honorable Mbuyane. Yeah. Continue.
So the sentence was, one of the main structural challenges is the electricity load shedding crisis, which has weighed down economic growth and confidence, leading to the economy growing below 2% per annum over the last years. So that, I believe, was a response from the DTIC.
Okay, let me go back to you, Honorable Mbuyane. In terms of the issue you're raising, if it's adequately presented or covered in the report before us. Honorable Mbuyane.
Yeah, Chairperson, thank you very much. I think Margot has covered me on the issue because really you cannot talk of economic growth while there's this serious crisis that is happening in terms of the electricity. So the department also, or the committee must be able to pronounce itself on the issue of corruption and youth development in terms of the YES scheme that is provided from the department of, from the presidential, yes.
No, thank you very much.
Chair, Chair?
Yes.
On the clarification based on the fact that there is mention in that, and as indicated, spoke on the direction, we may add 2.3, the issue of load shedding as one of the concern to economic growth, Chair.
Okay.
Chair,
Okay.
can I take this opportunity to second that addition?
Okay, okay. No, thank you very much, Honorable Hermans and Mbuyane, in terms of being able to actually identify or highlight the issue. And I think with those highlight or amendments, we're actually all in agreement that we can proceed in that order. Yes.
We just need to put it in writing so members can see where we put it, Margot. The reference to the load shedding as also a factor that may compromise economic growth?
I'm trying to think how we put it.
Okay.
Can I propose that we say corruption, state, state capture,
and load shedding.
And yeah.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I rather put it as supply issues rather than and the supply of electricity?
Agreed.
And the irregular or something like that.
Okay.
It would be unstable supply.
Or the unstable, yeah.
Unstable. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm sure that covers that issue. Let's then actually move on to the next item. That one is agreed to.
Number 4, Chair, the committee noted the significant public investment, but private investment lagged behind, which was worsened by the second wave of COVID-19 infections for the period under review.
Okay. Let's hear from members if ever there's any comments, addition or amendment. In the absence, then we can pick up the next item. This one is agreed to. Can we then move on to the next one?
The next one, Chair, the committees of the view that these factors could slow down the domestic economic recovery and may lead to further fiscal tightening.
Okay. As a statement, I'm sure we in agreement, comfortable with that. Unless there are any suggestion for change or addition, can we take the next item?
The next one is to mitigate the socioeconomic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The committee encouraged the DTIC to persist in its implementation of the interventions as mandated by the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, and to consider creative ways to reach and include businesses in more rural provinces. Mr. Cuthbert raises his hand, Chair.
Okay, Honorable Cuthbert.
Thanks very much, Chairperson. Chair, I don't have a problem with this one. I'd like to go back to number 5 because I'm not sure what fiscal tightening is. Are they trying to imply austerity or what? Because I've never heard of the term fiscal tightening per se. So I think we just need to clarify that. Or we need to rephrase that particular part of the sentence to say that, you know, this may lead to a further constrained fiscus, because that would be the appropriate way to write it out. Just maybe the views of the ANC's whip to find out if they'd be happy with that reword.
Okay. Let's actually then get the consideration of your your clarity.
Okay. What is the amendment? Honorable.
Yeah, Ms. Hermans. So you say it may lead to further fiscal tightening, but I've not heard that as a term. So I'm saying rather we say may lead to further fiscal constraints or impose constraints on our fiscus.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. So I think that was an amendment of item 5. On 6, if ever there's any comments, any amendment, item 6. Honorable Cuthbert, the change or suggestion for 5 is agreed to. 6, are there any comments, honorable members? In the absence, Secretariat, I'm sure we can move to the next one, but can you go through, just read through the 6th item?
I will read it again, Chair.
Yeah.
To mitigate the socioeconomic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, the committee encouraged the DTIC to persist in its implementation of the intervention as mandated by the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, and to consider creative ways to reach and include businesses in more rural provinces.
Okay. So I'm sure on that one, because we've just gone through it, it's agreed to. We
Number
can
7,
then actually...
Chair?
Yes.
The committee noted with concern the decline in domestic investment during the 4th quarter, despite significant increases in investment by public corporations and government. It ever welcomed the investment by companies such as Bader SA Pty Limited, Sizabantu Piping Systems Pty Limited, and firms within the poultry industry.
Okay. I'm sure we actually have agreement on item 7 as presented, and just maybe we see those alterations which are more. Can we then pick up on item 8 if 7 is agreed to?
Item 8, Chair. The committee welcomed the collaborative social compact between government, business, and organized labor on the various master plans spearheaded by the DTIC to support economic recovery as part of the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, and further mitigate against a decline in economic growth due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Okay. Honorable members, if ever there's any amendment, question, or changes on the item 8. If not, then we can proceed to the next item.
Chair, if there is no
Yes.
further comments on the concluding remarks, and no party has submitted any recommendations for consideration, and if that still remains the case, the committee we can then move for the, unless committee parties want to take this to their caucuses, the committee can move for the adoption of the report today, or we can wait till Friday to allow parties to take the report to their caucuses for comment. We will be guided by the committee on the process, Chair.
Can we then get your guidance, Portfolio Committee, if we can actually proceed to make more time for interaction, or
Mr.
actually
Mbuyanyi raised his hand,
proceed?
and Mr. Cuthbert, Chair.
It's okay. You said who's raising the hand?
Mr. Mbuyanyi,
Mbuyanyi.
Chair, apologies,
Okay.
and Mr. Cuthbert.
Honorable Mbuyanyi.
Yes, Chairperson, thank you very much. I think it's proper that we take these issues to various caucuses.
Okay.
Yeah, or studies group, so that we are able to come with a mandate that has been given by the organization that we are representing on the matters. Then I agree also in terms of the meeting schedule for Friday, so that we consolidate and recommend everything on Friday. Thank you.
Okay. Honorable Cuthbert.
Thanks very much, Chair. Chair, I second Mr. Mbuyanyi's comments. I'm
Okay.
happy to come and adopt it on Friday, but I don't think anything that's very controversial is in that report, so I don't imagine it will be too much of a problem. And then also just to ask Andre to please send out the notification for Friday's meeting and just the times, because I wasn't actually aware that we were having a Friday meeting, and I've got a couple of things planned, so I just want to try and see how I can maneuver around that, Chairperson.
We'll do so, Chair.
No, thank you very much. I think for members actually agree that let's further consult at parties level, and let's actually reconvene on Friday as a committee to conclude on process. Secretary, I'm sure we can actually then conclude in that order. And
Correct,
I think,
Chair.
yes.
Chair, we will add the concluding remarks that to form part of the report and forward that report to all parties to take it to their caucuses. Chair, the next item is to consider outstanding minutes, Chair. We have four sets of minutes that were outstanding, and I thought we could deal with that this morning, Chair. So if Margot, with your guidance, Chair, if it could be flighted, Chair, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. As agreed in terms of our agenda today, let's actually have them flighted, and then if you can take us through Secretariat.
Chair, the meeting on the 24th of August dealt with we received the briefing by the department and the IDC and the National Empowerment Fund on economic recovery support interventions. And that included a briefing by SASRI on its mandate functions and operation. I think that emanated from the oversight visit that committee had, and I'm not sure if I'm correct. We can go down, Margot. We had an apology of Mr. McPherson, Chair, then just introductory and process, and then standard language usage, Chair. Then we received the briefing by DTIC, IDC, and NF on economic recovery support intervention. The discussion was led by Minister Patel and Ms. Mabichi Thompson on the impact of recent unrest on businesses in Gauteng and KZN, and DTI's response and the support package it is offering. Mr. Ngoko proceeded to brief the committee on the IDC's response on the economic interventions, and Mrs. Mtetwa proceeded to brief the committee on the NEF's response and on the interventions offering to affected business in KZN and Gauteng. Committee deliberated and highlighted a number of issues. the impact of the unrest on investor confidence, particular foreign investment, and the threat of recurrence of this type of behavior to existing and future foreign investment. The committee also wanted to indicate this targeted plan to mitigate the possible loss of foreign direct investment, and general raise concerns around the process, around the impact of the unrest, Chair. Then obviously any AF and IDC indicated their support and what they would offer to those affected businesses and communities. Committee also raised the issue of the estimates regarding the cause of the damage and the impact, how they contribute to poverty. Committee raised the technical support for local micro and small medium enterprises during that process, and also the turnaround time to enable companies to restart manufacturing to ensure the retention of jobs. Then that was followed by a briefing by Sasria Chair, Mr. Bogayane provided, and together with Mr. Masondo, provide a brief to the committee on its history, mandate, and business model. And the committee adjourned at 11:35 until Wednesday of August. Mr. Mbuyane, Chair, raise his hand.
Honorable Mbuyane.
Chairperson, thanks once again. I propose that we adopt the minutes as reflected, as a true reflection of what happened. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's a move for the adoption of the minutes. Is there any
Chair?
secondment? Honorable Hammonds?
I second the adoption of the minutes as tabled.
Thank you very much. Are there any objections? In the absence, Secretariat, let's pick up the next set of minutes.
The next set of minutes will be the 25th of August, if I'm correct. On the 25th, we received a briefing by the National NRCS, the National Regulator for Compulsory Specification, and the South Africa Bureau of Standards on the turnaround strategy. This is a part of the quarterly or reports that committee required from these two entities. If we go down. We had an apology of Mr. Thring on that day. The standard introductory notes. The briefing by SABS was led by Ms. Jody Scholz, who is the administrator for SABS on the implementation strategy. She highlighted the success of the strategy thus far. There was issues raised in relation to capturing and storing of carbon dioxide to address climate change and the limits to this. She focused on the status. The committee raised the issue of the status of elimination of expiration of system certification and SAPS mark scheme permits and how SAPS is working towards improving this. The committee focused on the impact of electricity supplies, the disruption on SAPS, and as well as the financial stability and cost-cutting measures at SAPS. The committee raised concern about the progress on skills audit and organizational design, as well as the strategy and mechanisms on dealing with assessing communities which are far-flung and in need of knowledge of SAPS activities. The committee also raised issues regarding SAPS financial liability and how it is being managed, and the low target for gender representation of women in SAP is a concern to the committee. The committee also raised the need for SAP to facilitate the development of unique African standards to be able to compete with global players, and measures to disseminate information regarding standards and how it affects our ordinary lives, including partnering with strategic institutional, traditional councils and world councils and some others, so that ordinary South Africans can understand the function and the role of SAPS in the broader economy. Chair, we received this followed by a briefing by the National Council Regulator for Compulsory Specification on its turnaround strategy. Mr. Mamadise led the presentation, and the committee focused on a number of issues, whether there was sufficient internal audit capacity and measures to prevent qualified audit, and that matter was raised yesterday. international benchmark to turnaround for the turnaround strategy time to process applications for letters of authority LOAs or similar authorization. The committee raised issues around the aspects of the ICT modernization project are being developed locally or internationally and the terms and conditions of its use, including the financial commitments attached to that. The committee also raised the issue around sustainability of the new organizational structure, which was endorsed on the 1st of March. Potential allegations of fraud and corruption is a concern, as well as the backlogs in processing LOAs. And also the committee wants to know that how the NRC is collaborating with other entities and departments going forward. The meeting adjourned at 11:53 until the 1st of September 2021. Mrs. Hermans raised her hand, Chair.
Honorable Hermans.
Thank you, Chair. I move for the adoption of the minutes as tabled.
Thank you very much. Can we check if there's anyone who actually second the adoption of the minutes?
Mr. Mbuyane, Chair.
Honorable Mbuyane.
Chairperson, I second the adoption of the minutes as a true reflection of what transpired. Thank you.
There is a secondment for the minutes by Honorable Mbuyane. Are there any objections? Honorable members, in the absence of any objection, can we proceed to the next set of minutes?
Chair, the next set of minutes is dated the 1st of September. Chair, we received the briefing by the National Gambling Board on its fourth quarter financial and non-financial performance. We considered minutes and we considered the committee program. If we can move down. Chair, we had apologies of Ms. Moatse and Ms. Yaku on that day. If we can go down. And in the introductory, if you can go up, Margot. Introductory remarks, the minister is requesting the postponement of the DTIC's feedback on submission received on the reservations on copyright and the performance protection amendment bills. It was brought to the committee's attention and committee addressed that issue. Can we go down?
Margot's not keeping up with the
briefing by the National Gambling Board on its fourth quarter financial and non-financial performance. Ms. Kongwa, who is the administrator, briefed the committee, and the committee highlighted a number of issues. This was around the status of the forensic investigation into the affairs of the NGB, particularly the previous board and executive, and whether any criminal charges has been laid. The importance for the NGB to be a forefront of policy and regulatory developments within the gambling industry. A concern raised by the committee was the lack of harmonization between national norms and standards and provincial legislation, and the inability of the NGB to enforce national legislation and address illegal gambling, especially online gambling. Actions, the committee raised around the actions taken to curb illegal online gambling and the outcomes thereof. Concern with the committee was the identification of front internet cafes that offer illegal online gambling. Committee raised the challenges faced by the NGB with respect to capacity constraints and the absence of the required legal skill to effectively deal with confiscation of illegal winnings. The concerned committee was the need to address the ills of compulsive and addictive gambling. The committee was also raising the issue of education and awareness programs in all provinces on the consequences of gambling addictions, especially people in the rural areas, and what would be the impact of the reduction of gambling activities on employment since the start of the lockdown. The committee recognized that source of other income to the value of 137.3 million, and the moratorium on the filling of the chief executive officer post and the impact on the operation of the NGB, because the NGB has been operating without the CEO for some time. The status of increase in online gambling was a concern to the committee, and the outcome of the NGB capacity building workshop with the National Credit Regulator was also raised. The committee then proceeded to consider minutes dated 11th, the 12th, the 17th, and 18th of August, was considered and adopted by the committee. We go down, Margaret. And which include the 20th, and the committee considered the committee program for the next quarter, and we know what was the challenges there. And the meeting adjourned until at 11:15 until Tuesday, 7th of September 2021. Mrs. Hermans raised her hand, Chair.
Honorable Hermans.
Thank you very much, Chair. I move for the adoption of the minutes, but I just wanted to check whether the NGB did submit the outstanding issues in September as requested.
Chair,
Okay.
We'll follow up and we'll come back to the committee on that, Chair.
Okay, there's a mover for adoption of the minutes, Honorable Hermans. Honorable Mjawu.
Thanks, Chair. I second the adoption of the minutes.
There's a secondment of the minutes. Are there any objections? And in the absence, the minutes are agreed to. Maybe we can take, I think there's a last set, Secretariat?
There's a last set, the 7th of September, Chair.
Yeah.
We had a briefing by the National Consumer Tribunal and the National Credit Regulator on the fourth quarter financial and non-financial performance for the 2020-21 financial year. If you go down, we had an apology of Mr. Thring at that meeting. The briefing by the NCT was led by Professor J. Maseko and Mr. Lulwane. On the fourth quarter report, the committee raised the following concerns: the impact of the 10% vacancy rate on the functioning of the NCT, the challenges faced when identifying people with disabilities for employment, and also highlighted the reason for the concerns, the reason for the target of not having debtors awaiting payment being removed and replaced with the target in relation to the implementation of access strategy in the fourth quarter, and the impact of the delay in the implementation of the National Credit Amendment Act on the work of the NCT. That was followed by a briefing by the NCR on its fourth quarter financial and non-financial performance. Ms. Moshigari proceeded to brief the committee. The committee raised the following concerns around the success rates of rates on loan sharks in terms of arrest, money confiscated, and successful prosecution. Raised issues around the status of the implementation of the National Credit Amendment Act and the challenges in this regard, and the impact on the cost of credit to poorer communities. Committee also raised the following around the funding options being explored to enable the implementation of the National Credit Amendment Act, the status of the wider amendment bill to address technological changes in the credit market, and the importance of education and awareness programs for people in rural provinces, and the importance of reaching out to rural communities. The committee also addressed the reasons for some stakeholders not signing the memorandum of understanding to establish the National Register of Credit Agreements by the end of the fourth quarter, and had concerns around capacity constraints to take enforcement action against credit bureaus that have not submitted their annual reports to the NCR. The last issue was related to the impact and delayed delivery of laptops on employees' ability to work remotely. The next issue that the committee considered was the postponement of the committee program. This program related to the Constitutional Court decision regarding the extension of the local government elections. And then we would inform that we cannot meet from Wednesday onwards until we return on, should be the 9th of November and not the 2nd of November. That was the original date. So it's the 9th of November, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Ms. Mwatse, followed by Mr. Mbiani, Chair, raise their hands.
Okay, Honorable Mwatse.
Thank you, Chairperson. I move for the adoption of the minutes.
Thank you very much. There's a mover for the adoption by Honorable Mwatse. Honorable, was it Mboyane?
That's correct, Chair.
Honorable Mboyane.
Chairperson, thank you very much. I second the adoption of the minutes as a true reflection of what transpired. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mboyane. Are there any objections?
Chair, we have no further. Oh, sorry, my apologies, Chair.
Okay. No, there was no objection.
Okay.
Andre, that's fine. And I'm sure we can actually move on to the next part of our program. I
Chair,
hear you. Yeah.
We have concluded the business of today, Chair. But just to remind members that we did raise the matter that we will meet on Friday to afford Advocate van der Merwe to respond to the submissions made by the DTIC yesterday on the remitted bills, and that the date has been reflected on the program for some time. I will send out the link as soon as the end of the meeting to all members for the meeting for Friday. Thank you. Like I also indicated, we will forward the consolidated report to members in order for members to take it to the respective party caucuses before the adoption on Friday on the matter, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretariat. I'm sure we would then be able to, can you confirm the times for Friday, Secretariat?
Chair, we will start Friday at 9 o'clock, Chair. Hopefully we will, the input of Ms. Advocate van der Merwe scheduled from 9 till 12, and then afterwards we will adopt the fourth quarter report, Chair.
Okay. No, I was actually then trying to respond to the issue as well of members who wants to make sure that at least they are able to accommodate that by adjusting some of their engagement or commitments. Thank you very much. I'm sure we can reconvene on Friday as the committee, and I'm sure the communication will be sent out in appropriate time for us to be able to be ready for that. I'm sure that actually brings us to the end of the agenda, Secretariat, unless there's any other issue you'd like to raise.
No issues from the Secretariat side, Chair, to be raised. Thank you.
Okay. Honorable members, I think we can actually conclude our meeting and reconvene on Friday. There will obviously be a notice that goes out from Secretariat for the Friday session, isn't it? Just to confirm.
Correct, Chair. Chair,
Okay.
if I may request that yourself, Ms. Hermans and Mr. Biani just remain on the platform, just want to raise a matter.
Okay.
Thanks, Chair.
Okay. No, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Let's reconvene on Friday. Thank you. Meeting
Recording
adjourned.
stopped.
Thank you, Chairperson.